Welcome, everyone, to today's podcast with IBC Global. Steve Parisi here, your host. Today we have a good friend of mine and a business partner as well with us, Denzel Rodriguez, as a guest. Denzel, how you doing, my friend?
Doing well, my friend. Thank you so much for having me. This
Yeah.
is well overdue.
Oh,
So this is fantastic that we're putting some time together to talk to our audiences and show what kind of relationship we have together and how much fun we're having, making a ton of money, helping people,
yeah.
and really building out this thing.
Yeah, definitely. No, it's been overdue. I mean, we've been talking about it for like what, a year, something like that.
Yeah, we did one really good collab that ranked really high on your YouTube channel, and I still get comments to this day. People are like, "Oh, found you listening to that collab you did with Steve."
But
I'm like, "Wow,
that weird
got to
insurance
keep it
guy.
going."
Yeah, right
Yeah,
on. Right on. Well, thanks so much for making some time. Yeah, really appreciate it. So, for our first podcast, what I really wanted to talk about is a lot of times people reach out to me like, "Hey, we hear Denzel talk about you. Your agents mention him whenever we ask about Velocity Banking, that you guys work together." So a lot of people, like, the ideas out there that we've worked together for a while, but that's about it. It's like, hey, I think they work together, and they kind of do the same thing, same policy design, but it kind of stops there. So obviously we've worked together for a while, but just to kind of lay things out, I wanted to have more of a discussion with you of how we've been working together from start up until now. And, the best way to attack it is, let's just start from the beginning and take it from there, you know? So we met, it was probably what, about closer to 3 years ago? Something like
correct.
that. Yeah.
Right around 2017,
Yeah.
end of 2017, beginning of 2018
Yeah.
is when I initially came over your marketing material.
hmm Yeah, you had actually come through one of our sites just doing research at the time on the banking concept. So you're looking into cash value life insurance and such. And if I recall, you were primarily shopping around. You're looking at different companies, different policies, trying to figure out more or less how to how to do things right. I remember you saying, "Hey, I know something's there, like with this policy design." As you were digging into it, really from the consumer side. But I guess if you want to share with everyone your side, from your side, kind of how you came across us and how you decided to work with us, really as call it a consumer and agent, from the consumer and agent side in the beginning, and we'll begin there.
Definitely. So prior to even coming across your intel, your data on infinite banking, I was a part of another company called Reminisces, which is a real estate educational school, and they were teaching people how to, invest in real estate, and they also were talking about velocity banking. And at that time, velocity banking really caught my eye because it was something that I was doing already without even like knowing what I was doing. I was already like using credit cards, using a line of credit to pay off debt and increase my cash flow and build credit. And I was like, 19, 20 at the time when I first started building my credit, trying to get my family out of debt, trying to get myself out of debt. So I find Renatus, was with them for maybe a couple of months, and I'm still with them to this day where I get my information and knowledge from. But it was only a couple of months where somehow I think it was through Facebook or it might have been like just on the Google.
Mm-hmm.
And I had seen infinite banking or become your own banker. And I was like, I wonder how that relates to velocity banking. I just kind of put the two and two together. I was like, there's got to be something there. And then before I hit your information, there was another gentleman that was talking about the infinite banking concept, but doing it differently from you. He was, using some of the smaller whole life insurance companies like Penn Mutual, Lafayette. Um, and so he had content, really good stuff, really good information. He was teaching it to me. And then I was like, let's see if I can get a second opinion. Let's see if there could be someone else that could chime in on this. And the conversation, this is the breaking point for me, or the decision-making process that ultimately led me to you, which was the conversation I had with the other gentleman was strictly sales, product, and design. And it was, trying to get me in. I'm a young kid, and I got savings, I got credit. I have the ability to do this. When I hit your site, it was like, get access to the vault of information up front. Here you go. Here's it all. Here. And I'm like, oh my God. None of this was talked about during the previous conversation. And then I reached out to a guy named John that was on your team originally.
Yep.
Older gentleman, super laid back, funny guy. I think I had my first conversation was with him after getting access to your vault of information. And at this time, I did not know who you were, didn't know your name, and you did not have a YouTube channel at this time. And then that conversation with John was super relaxed. And then I sent the illustrations that the other gentleman from Penn Mutual that I had. And then I think it was maybe the second or third phone call I actually got to speak to you. And then your conversation beyond sales and product design, it was like, in a way, you weren't pushing me away, but you were encouraging me to do more research. So I'm like, okay, that was relaxing. The phone call was super relaxing, super laid back. You're like, hey, here are the four major mutual life insurance companies that are out there according to financial performance stats, but don't take my word for it. If you look it up here, if you go there, you'll see that. And in the meantime, I'll take what you have, the design, and we'll match it up to Mass Mutual or a Guardian. And then, boom. And the next conversation, I mean, it wasn't sales. I really didn't feel like I was being sold into anything, but rather just being re-educated on this new discovery of infinite banking. And just here we are, this is around 2018, and I'm, working a job at the time. I'm doing velocity banking for myself. This is before I had a YouTube channel as well, before I even had a business idea or anything. And then, a few more phone calls, I finally, get my own policy in place. But at the same time, you were doing these webinars back to back, like on a weekly basis. I would tune in almost every single time. The emails, none of it was sales. It was super transparent, straight up information. And it was so good that it's like I sold myself into it. I didn't have to be sold. I bought into it after I was like, all right, there's something there. I got to figure it out, because it seems to me like the wealthiest of the wealthiest individuals on planet Earth are incorporating these strategies: real estate, velocity banking, infinite banking, 10x, right?
Yeah.
And I'm just like, wow, what's going on here, And, fast forward mid 2018, I had a summer of 2018. I had lost my job, got fired. You were super supportive in that time. We designed a policy for myself to really make money on my own self, because I was an agent. And that was the other super cool thing, is prior to meeting you, I had already had my life insurance license, and you were super transparent with other agents. And you were like, here's what we're doing, and if you want to hop on board, you could work with us and work with other companies, not be bound or captive in any means. And so, here we are today, just, making a lot of progress. So those are the beginning stages. That's how we initially met. Great conversations. You were just a teacher more than a salesman, but with, obviously those tactics of teaching somebody and motivating them to make a decision,
Yeah.
increasing
Yeah.
their finances.
Yeah. No, I mean, appreciate that. Thank you very much. I mean, that's kind of always been my I guess my approach to it before any business coaching, or we work with a similar business coach, Uncle G, but even working with him now, he's very big on sales, and I love his entire business model, concept, and idea. But at the same time, like, I personally don't like going into a situation where I don't know or understand a product, an idea, a concept, and someone trying to push me forward on it because they might know it's going to benefit me. But like, if I don't know yet, I'm like, "Nah, don't push me. Like, I want to understand it." And then I take a step back. This is my weird analytical brain, which you've come to know. Um, when I look at companies like Apple and Amazon, where it just they sell a lot of high ticket items and they've got low end products from a business standpoint, dynamite companies. But how much, if you and I are going to go out and purchase something on Amazon, how much selling or push to sale do they do? None.
Like none.
It's all online because all of the information is there. So it is the high information age. And just when you talk about concepts like infinite banking, velocity banking, high cash value life insurance, there's a lot of material, and it takes time for anyone to learn it. I was fortunate with my background getting to start with corporations, insight, working with an actuary of how all this stuff works. And then I was able to practice and refine, and I still work on that, of how to properly communicate it, because it's like taking another language and now you got to translate it into English with some of these insurance products and such and how they work. But the information and such, the webinars, we've done that for a long time. That's going to start up again in the near future with what we've got going on with our coaching and training business. But yeah, no, I mean, I've enjoyed working with you, and I do remember in those early days when we conduct our webinars, actually Wednesday afternoons and then Wednesday evenings, you were on there even when it was like 5 or 6 people. When we were just putting them out there, because everybody said, "Hey, I want training. I want training." I'm like, okay. I was having a hard time managing time, so I'm like, all right, I'll do it Wednesdays at this time. Anybody who wants to come on, now's the time. And nobody really showed up except for you and a handful of other people, which those people coincidentally still tend to work with us. But yeah, I recall that, and it's kind of neat when you take a step back to see, hey, look at the progression that individuals make. They had the same habits today that they had on day one. It's always something, it always works out like that. And then if you look at an individual and say, hey, I want them to mentor me, or how can I get to the same level that they're at? Well, really the thing is just see what they're doing, and it's details as far as habits, what they're incorporating in their life, how they interact with people. Jim Rohn, for example, I know you've mentioned you've listened to him. I listen to him like every day. Yeah. If he was alive, if he was alive, he'd be the mentor and coach I'd be reaching out to. I love his style of communication, and just a good, genuine guy. You can sense that in everything he talked about. But when he talked about personal development, working on a little thing like your handshake, so when you see mentors and such, like, how do they interact with individuals? I mean, you don't have to copy them and become the individual, but take the things that you say, hey, I really like how they interacted with me, and then start to copy that or take a few of those items and do the same thing. And we're going to learn from a variety of individuals. There's no one person that's around today that, hey, we should only copy them. No, take what you like and dismiss the rest. That's my mindset.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love doing that. Perfect example
Yeah.
is just, using the word crisis. So many people relate crisis to danger, chaos, chaotic events. But, when we look at the root word, the Greek root word of crisis is sift, I believe, which literally means to shake out the excess and only keep what's important. So it's like, okay, if you're learning from a guy like Grant, and you're learning from a guy from like Tony Robbins or Dean Graziosi, Jim Rohn, Les Brown, right? Whomever it is, you take the best things that you like from them. You don't want to be them because you're your own human being. There's only one of you. So you want to, take the things that you like most about them, that you align with, morally, maybe spiritually, physically, emotionally, relationship wise, how they handshake, right? How they talk to every single client on every single phone call. And then you take those skills and you make it your own, because it's, at the end of the day, it's your voice. It's how you deliver the message. And so, that's how I like to, go about that.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. And just working on presentations. I mean, I'll sit there and practice a presentation 18 times until I can rehearse it properly. Because well, that's another story I can share another time. What when I didn't do that, like in college, just botching presentations, utter embarrassment because I couldn't communicate that well. But you had to work on it, personal development and such. But let's get back on track because you and I will do our normal thing and just start talking about things we like. Yeah, no, I love it though. So you had started with us, just you found us through really our one of our marketing channels and the education you mentioned you'd appreciate it. And I appreciated your questions too, actually digging into it because not everyone does that. A lot of people are interested in the industry for the sales aspect, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. But those who really dig into it to make sure, hey, I want to make sure that I have the absolute best product, best way of doing things for my clients and my own personal policy, but putting others first. And if you do that, everything else falls in line. And that was apparent with you from day one, which is rare among
Definitely. That
among
was
everyone, let alone younger folks. Hmm.
that was super important for me because of uh, my prior experience. I come from sales.
Yeah.
My first job was selling Cutco knives, and then I was selling Victa watches, and then I got involved with a bunch of different MLMs, all of which I failed at, right?
Hmm.
And that's part of the process. I made money without a doubt, but I never like stood with it because I was like, I don't like it. I want to change it up, or I want to switch, or this is not my thing. This is not my calling. But it's helping me gather the resources and the skills to get there. And so finally, when I came across your information, and just to let everybody know that's watching, like the partnership that was established between Steve and I, that literally took about maybe 6 to 9 months before I even started making any money, number one, and before I became considered like an in-house agent. I don't go to work. I don't work at Steve's location. I'm here in South Florida and Steve's in Pennsylvania, but the amount of time that it took to just get that established, the partnership, the relationship, and the money-making opportunity, that took a little while. And that was 2 years ago. So, for those that are, agents watching, viewing, and they want to, just jump on board and jump on the bandwagon, so to speak, you really need to not only put the time in, the effort, but you have to be willing to, you know, give more than what you would receive. I remember most of my first sales, not that I got I did get majority of the commission, but I would sacrifice, as much as I could to make sure that the client was getting all of the information possible, rather than me trying to write a policy myself and get 100% commission off of that one policy. I was like, hey, is there a way where like I can leverage your whole entire staff and do a 75-25, a 70-30, a 60-40, a 50-50, to make sure that the client is getting what they need, the education, the strategy coming from me, and then anything else that could possibly come up over the next 40 years, because this product is something you're going to have your whole entire life,
Yeah.
and because of my age and the clients that I work with, it's very likely that I'm going to outlive 95% of my clients, on average, because they're all over the age of 55, or 45.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure that there's a company that will be around that long, number one, a partnership that will last, and the education material and the resources for the heirs to reach out to the proper department
Hmm.
when a family member passes away, mom or dad, that
Hmm.
Steve Parisi's name comes up. As soon as there's a death in the family, oh, boom, Steve, Denzel, I got to reach out, you know?
Yeah.
and it makes that process much better. So I'm looking at this like long
Long
term.
term. And getting those systems in place. Yeah. No, and I mean, thanks for mentioning that. I will say you are an exception as far as our recruiting process. Agents that work in house, we do invest a lot of time, money into them and such, and typically they're in house, meaning they're physically in Pennsylvania in the office on a daily basis. Minus the past 4 months with everything going on, it's been a little bit different, or a lot different, I should say. But the only in-house agent, the individual that we open certain things up to the same degree as we do our in-house agents is you, and that's really from the beginning. I mean, you've worked with us. I'm very big personally just on loyalty. Like when someone says, hey, I'm going all in the beginning, when we were still growing everything, developing systems, I was partially saying, hey, I like the information, but I viewed it as kind of a leap of faith too, to say, hey, these guys are figuring it out and growing, but yeah, they seem like they're doing the right thing. I hope it works out. So, I mean, I appreciate you doing that. And that's where I'm big, hey, like, hey, let's offer him everything the same as I talk to our executive staff here, because you put the work, the time in, and you're easy to work with too. I mean, when we make adjustments in-house and such, we communicate with you. And I mean, I try and always look at it the same way to say, okay, if he needs an adjustment from us, let's make sure we accommodate guys, because you do to others as you'd want done to you. And I love that about you and just business and such. It makes things a lot easier because you always have those challenges you don't expect to come up. They take up all your time, and then know, okay, here's someone that can just move fast with and makes life easy.
Oh yeah.
Definitely. Well, let's keep going. So after you had connected with us, I mean, your focus was, I remember you sending me an article of kind of a website landing page, what you're developing, and it was a focus where I think you had wrote it with your mom, kind of you were describing the relationship, but you were focusing on helping single moms.
Correct. Yeah, the at that time, right after I had lost my job, which is like my main source of income, and at that time I was still, trying to learn infinite banking, getting
Yeah.
educated. I was in the process of getting my own policy design so that I could be, a product of the product and truly believe in it. One of the, suggestions that came up as I was really learning everything with velocity banking and infinite banking and trying to put it together was I had a friend and a lot of other people during my journey tell me, hey, you got a great voice and you could probably do videos. And my really good friend, Alex, um, really was the one that dropped the final seed. It was like, dude, you need to make videos. You got a good voice, record. And I just started recording, sharing my story, just like what we're doing right here, just talking to people. And it's like, you could still see my content today. I mean, it was old, ragged, bad audio, bad visual, bad lighting, everything. It was just like bad. But it was like, you could still kind of hear me
Yeah.
to the point. You just got to raise the volume all the way up.
Yeah.
You can hear me, and you can hear me saying, hey, here's a scenario of my mom's numbers. Here are my numbers. Here's what I'm trying to do. Does this work? If we run the numbers, here's what this would look like if I did X, Y, and Z. Do you guys think it could work? So I wasn't even coming off like this is the way to do things. It was more like, here's what I'm trying to do. Here's the results that I've gotten so far. And by the way, I love my mom. This is my reasoning for stepping out there is the fact that I got results. I got financial results for my mom to improve her credit. She became debt free. She's learning how to use money in the 21st century, and she's over the age of 50. And, she's doing well, much better than before. So I was, in my head, I was like, I've got no prior formal education on finance. I've spent no real tens of thousands of dollars on licenses and education. I mean, I spent $100 on a background check, maybe $50 to take the life insurance state exam.
Yeah.
Got that. But for the most part, I was probably spending like maybe $10 to $50 on books and watching free content
Yep.
because I didn't have the money to begin with. Um, and so here I am getting these results from my mom. And I was like, all right, if I can help her, then maybe I could help another mom out there. And so in almost every video I was making, I was like, hey, my mission is to help moms, you know, master their finances, pay off debt, get their credit right, just put in a financial management system. Here are some numbers that I'm working with. If it makes sense, reach out to me here, you know, and let's have a conversation. And that's really what I was doing for about the first 6 months. So from like August 2018 all the way to like January of 2019, that's literally all I was doing.
Yeah.
And at the same point, I was trying to continue to build my relationship with you by simply sending as many leads as I possibly could over to your team to service those people that were interested in the videos that I was making,
Sure.
you know?
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. No, definitely. I mean, that's commendable. And that's that it factor, the work ethic, where you're saying, okay, I'm trying to start out. I don't have the resources or money right now to do it, but I'm willing to put the time in and be uncomfortable and just go for it, man. which which I love, you know, especially with the video content, just in the beginning where you're putting it out there, criticism comes, but it's like who cares? Like I'm going to refine myself, I'm going to put it out there, and you're talking to people is what you're doing. And like I always believe, if you share your personal message, what you're going through, your numbers, exactly what you did, your mom's numbers, people are going to relate to that because everybody has problems. And if you and I have a million problems, there's a good chance that probably 300,000 of them, 300,000 are exactly the same or similar. So, okay, I can relate to that, no problem. So when you start talking about that stuff, naturally, you're going to attract individuals and you're going to help them out. Here's some things I'm considering, and the things you're considering that I'm considering are different. So now you get new ideas, and that's just collaboration, talking to individuals. That's where innovation comes from. Innovation rarely comes from someone just sitting there on their own. It's collaborating with other individuals and writing things down so you don't forget about them. Yeah. So, if we were to fast forward 2.5, 3 years from back when we connected till now, obviously things are much different, right? You've blown up, which is great. I love that. Keep pushing, man. And here I am when we met down. When was that? December when we had met down in Miami.
Yes, we
Yeah,
had met in person
yeah,
finally. That was a really cool experience. Phil was there and Dara, and that was just like
yeah,
really awesome
yeah,
to, get that opportunity, to get that chance. And you were in town for Grant Cardone. So making
yeah.
time for me was like, oh my God, like I must feel like $1,000,000 if he's
Yeah.
coming to see me.
Oh, I loved. We blocked that out. I remember that evening because Brandon. We were with Brandon Dawson's with his ventures group going through coaching, and him, on the fly. He's brilliant with a lot of his business ideas. But he comes up and goes, "Hey, we're at my apartment over here, my second home in Miami. We're having dinner tonight. If you want to come over and talk about your business." I'm like, "Hey, I made plans, man. I'd love to. Next time, just let me know in advance." But like, I'm big on let your yes mean yes. That's a Bible
Yeah.
principle.
And something
Yeah.
like that is something like that right there is like the confirmation that I did the right thing. I hooked up with the right people because had you gone to that person's home, that you could have picked up, a huge client. Huge. I mean, just the sheer caliber of people that are in that room,
Yeah.
relaxed, right?
Yeah.
Open, vulnerable. I mean, you could have easily
Hmm.
picked up new clients there. Even Phil and Dara as well. Like
There.
just
Yeah.
this, co-creating, collaborating and things like that. So the fact that you let that go to have a nice dinner, by the way, nice dinner,
Good
at a
steak.
nice,
Yeah.
nice steak,
I
nice
like the steak.
restaurant.
Good pick. I think you picked it. Yeah.
Yeah,
That was good stuff, man. Keep going. I don't mean to talk about food. Sorry.
yeah. No, no, but just like that right there, that was, that's confirmation. And I keep getting confirmation like that, just like treating me like I go to the office every single day as an in-house agent. Most companies would not do that,
Yeah.
and you have a setup just like a Grant. Grant requires, hey, you want to come work with me, for me, you want to partner with me, you got to move to Miami. And so you're putting in that same, requirements for everyone else now that you're at this level. And the fact that, I met you back then,
Yeah.
that meant something. That, okay, he got in at the ground level. Not everyone gets to get in at ground level,
Yeah.
but what makes a difference is that you apply the same loyalty to those people, and not that you're treating them any differently than the people that you interact with today,
Hmm.
but you're saying this guy was in it to win it, and
Yeah.
here we are both winning.
I,
So I
I'm
think that's awesome.
I'm 100% with you. Yeah, and I have and had mentors over time as well that treated me in a similar way. And then some people don't. They say, "Hey, big deal came up. I got to cancel or postpone or reschedule because I'm small at the time, not really worth their time." And it's like, okay, I fully understand it. Don't get offended, but you do see that difference there. There's one mentor. He's at the end of his career with one company right now because he'll be forced out. But in the beginning, like when I was struggling to get going, when I broke off from the company where I just designed policies for corporations, I remember him taking time when I'm like barely surviving. Here's a guy that does big time producer mentor, and is like, yeah, we'll definitely meet you for breakfast for lunch just to talk to you. I'm like, why is he doing this with me? Like of all people, and didn't have the lead flow, the marketing skills that we've learned over time. But he did that, and that's extremely commendable. I'm trying to do that for everyone today as well. Now it's more of a case of always managing your time properly. That's a full-time job in itself. But no, I do really like that about you as well. It's not a quality you see a whole lot out there, and it's not because anyone maliciously doesn't have it. I don't think. I think it's just a case of everybody gets so busy and has to prioritize that some things get pushed out, kind of call it priorities or things. Hey, I used to put, this certain goal or this task first, but I've got to put it aside now. It's like when you stick to the foundations, the principles, everything works out.
It really does. You have to
Yeah.
have your referencing point.
Yeah.
Whatever you believe in life, whether
Yeah.
you believe in a particular faith, a religion, a creed, a culture, a tradition,
Hmm.
you have to have things that are unchanging,
Yep.
because we're in an environment where your whole entire life from birth till death is going to change,
Especially
right?
now.
Everything is going to change. That's
Hmm.
if there's something that will never stop happening, is change. And then there's principles or laws in life that are unchanging. So the more we, rely on these kind of methods, these ethics, these rules, these codes that we live by, code of ethics, or, kingdom ethics, or, personal moral values, as long as you don't sacrifice that in the change,
Hmm.
then you'll gradually have a upward growth.
Yep.
you know Even if you do a little bit of this, right, and keep going up, it's like you maintain your integrity in the
I,
midst of it
I,
all.
I love that. Like when I talk to my wife, like if one of us are going through a challenging situation, whether it's personal, with other individuals, business, whatever it might be, and I try and communicate this to my staff, friends, like whenever we're making progress on whatever task it is that we're focusing on, it doesn't have to be business and finance and such, but look at it every 6 months. Try not to focus on day to day because this week's going horrible. I view it the saying I'll always use. And I was laughing because I think of conversations I talked to my wife about is we're climbing up the mountain. You're going to keep going up, but if every once in a while you're going to slide back 10 feet because it's a slick patch of ice, the wind hit you, whatever it might be. But instead of focusing on, oh man, I fell down 10 feet, it's like, you just went up 500 feet. Like we're doing fine. Like that's going to happen here and there. Just keep going. And that can apply to anything, whether it's business, personal, whatever it might be. But no, when you mentioned that, that's the analogy or illustration I'll always use with my wife, and I talk about that a lot. But I'll say to everyone, when we get frustrated with a friend or something like that because they're not making the progress, or an employee, it's like, Steve, take a step back. Think it was you first. Put yourself in their position. Don't judge. But then second, it's like, okay, how much progress have they made in the past 6 months? Or the past 4.5 months, I would say it's very safe to say that for 90% of people out there, things have been extremely stressful with working from home due to COVID, everything going on, had to completely shift their habits and everything, or not their habits, their schedules, where I'll sit down and look at, okay, 6 months ago compared to now, things are more stressful. Why? Okay, COVID hit, it changed things. What specific items? What can we do to make an adjustment to continue to move forward rather than dwell on the problem and get pulled down? Yeah.
Definitely, totally agree. I
Yeah.
mean, with the stress and just to bring up the word crisis again, it's like that could be used here. It's like, okay, COVID hit, people are interpreting it as a dangerous thing, which it is. The thing, COVID, right? And it's invisible, germ, right? This flu that can hurt you. But at the same time, the crisis, simply it's an event that you have no control over.
Correct.
So if it's going to hit you, it's going to hit you. You can't do anything about it. You can put in preventive measures and cautions and keep it at that.
Yep.
The preventive measures and cautions. But when you worry about the preventive measures, like, is my mask on? Did I get tested? And is there going to be a vaccine? And you just start
pulls you down.
These are all distractions.
Yep.
Whereas you can say, okay, here are the preventive measures. Here are the cautions that we're going to put in. Here's the strategy, the mindset shift that we're going to go ahead and implement here for our company, at home, our relationship. But we're going to focus on the opportunities that will arise.
Yep.
And that's the whole, point of understanding what environment you're in and how to keep climbing up that mountain. There is going to be an ice, a mudslide or, ice that, a snowball effect that comes down. You may have to shift how you climb them. You can't just go straight up a mountain. You're going to have to do a lot of this, to get up to the top.
Yep.
And that process, the team, the people that you decide to go up the mountain with, is what would ultimately make the difference. And then the mindset going into it.
Yeah.
I expect crisis. I expect danger, but in the danger, there's opportunity as well.
I love it. Take it as it comes and roll with it. And I'll get back on track here. One thing, and I remember listening to Grant when 2008 hit and all his businesses go on stall, and he's talking to his wife, and he, being Grant, he's telling the story about talking to his wife, and she's like, what's this mean, Grant? What are we going to do? And he looks at her, and I think he said, baby, this is the biggest opportunity of our lifetime. He starts to laugh because he's nuts. But in all seriousness, I mean, he's right. I mean, that mentality, I mean, he expanded into the real estate market at that time. I also say, okay, so he did that. Well, who else did that? You can Google search this as well. If you look at Apple, they released the iPhone initially in 2007 and then started pushing it in 2008, 2009, right? In that recession, everybody's just having a hard time. They have their best year ever at the time. It's like, okay, what are they doing? They're expanding when everyone else retracts and plays defense. So in that point you mentioned where, hey, you're going to, in the crisis, everything's going on. You got to adapt, but there's opportunity as well. There definitely is, because when the tidal wave comes, usually everybody goes under, but then come back up for air, or let's wait until things get better, then come back up for air. Versus that, say, hey, I'm just going to go for it, come up, and I've got to take the opportunity when everybody else is just laying low and waiting for the storm to pass. But that's why people think we're crazy sometimes too. So a question I did want to ask, I love this stuff, by the way, as well. Question I did want to ask is just growing your business. So really from when we met till now, you grew it effectively. And you kind of alluded to this with videos earlier, but what are some of the things, and it could be one thing if you feel it's one, that helped you grow your business and get to where you are now, especially if people are looking at you, especially at your age. How old are you now? 23?
24 now.
24, that's right. at your age to say, okay, how did he do this at such a young age? And how can I try and do the same thing? Mhm.
So I'll hit it logically, and then I'll also hit it
Love it.
philosophically,
All right,
right?
man.
So philosophically, when you want to make a change in your life, you first have to take in new data. And before you take in that new data, you have to see the current hard drive that you have in your operating system. Is there anything I need to dump? Is there anything I need to unlearn and relearn first before I enter into this? Is there a mind shift that has to occur first?
Mhm.
And so for me, philosophically, my faith was in my Lord and Savior,
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Yep.
And I put all my bets on Jesus, on God,
Mhm.
on the Almighty. I said, okay, if you're real, right? And the Bible is as true as they come, and the word is effective and the Holy Spirit's real. There's another realm, there's an afterlife. If all this is true, I'm just going to put my bet on that, right? And I'm going to put it to the test. I'm going to challenge this. And I feel like if I'm going to discover anything, if I'm going to make a change in my life, you're going to have to go through trial and error. You're going to have to challenge it. If you want to know if something is true, you must, put it through a scientific experiment, right? And make observations, make hypotheses,
Testament.
evaluate the results, and you will see this is false, this won't work, or this is true, it does work. So for me, I put my faith in Christ, and he has led me the whole entire way philosophically. Now, logically, for those that, my viewers, because I have a ton of them that don't necessarily, rely on that. Well, then I hit it this way. Logically, I applied the 10X method, right, of marketing, researching, developing my niche, reaching out to individuals, and focusing on my ethics, behaviors, morals, and values that I want to bring to a new business. So in the 21st century, the fastest, most effective way to communicate information, to be an effective communicator and a salesman or saleswoman is through online video content, written word, or photographs, right? So you got written word, photographs, video, and then audio as well.
Yeah.
Like now we have, podcast has become
Mhm.
huge over the last few years. So we're in the 21st century. So you have to understand how to operate in this time. Back then, pre-internet, right? Pre-video, pre-TV, you had to go door to door to communicate information. You had to put on an event. Those still apply for
Yeah.
today, but all I'm saying is logically speaking, this is faster.
Yep.
Video is faster. Internet is faster. I can get to more people at a faster rate.
Right.
So I just took that and I said, okay, well, video is great because I can get video, audio, photographs, visual, and the written word all in one.
Yeah.
I can strip the translation out of the video. I can strip the audio out of the video, make it a podcast. I can cut the video up into multiple pieces and have repurposed content.
Mm-hmm.
And I can take videos where I can do a still shot photo like this, right? And that will be my thumbnail,
Beautiful.
right? And I can go like this, like 10x, right? And
Yeah.
and that's 20 photos right there.
Mhm.
And that'll get posted on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, everything and everything under the sun that is operating that's getting the attention right now. So I follow the attention, and then with 10x, I say, okay, what do I want for my life?
Mhm.
I want to go from making $2,000 a month at the time, that's what I was making, to $20,000 a month. Just simply add a zero. How do I do that? Right? And so I just 10x my number, right? It's a high enough goal that even if I failed to hit the goal and I got to 8,000 a month, I would not be upset. Right?
Yeah.
But if I say I want to go from making 2,000 a month to make an extra 500 and I don't do that, that's way more disappointing.
Correct.
So if you expand the goal, You say, okay, 2 to 20. If I get to 10 in 6 months, I'm not going to be angry. If I
Hmm.
go from 2 to 25,
Yep.
I'm not going to be angry. 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 6, 4 to
Mhm.
8, right? You're not going to be disappointed in your results whatsoever,
Yeah.
because you originally was like, dude, if I can just make an extra couple $100 a month, I'll be set.
Right.
You know, I'll be able to pay all my bills, pay off all my debt,
Yeah.
right? But you want to expand that because you want to leave room for giving, building relationships, advancing, expanding, just like Apple and Amazon does, on a yearly basis.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I really appreciate you going into that. And the first point, the philosophical point, there's a Bible principle on that. It's in Matthew, where it's more or less seek the kingdom first, and other things will be added to you. Going into the Bible principles and such. That I mean, I've always my wife and I, we always put God first, spiritual things first, and it is a huge help. I mean, that's in my schedule every day. That comes, Bible reading and such. Because going back to the habits, if I don't do that, I start to get stressed out with everything else. But again, that's not to say that everyone has to do that. That's part of the habits and such. And I hear you there. No, I agree. But then the logical part, as far as, okay, I'm trying to run a business from a systems and processes standpoint, what works A, B, and C, and then set a goal that's so high that you might look at and say, man, how am I going to hit that? But then kind of be realistic with yourself. Well, put your head down and go for it. And if you hit 50% of that, would you be happy? Well, yeah, I'd definitely be happy. Well, there you go. It's, I related, I ran track and field in high school and college. And the first goal was I ran the 800 meter. Did you run track at all?
I did not run
Didn't.
track. I was a wrestler, played football and band in high school.
Okay. Gotcha. So track the 800 meter, 2 laps around the track. The first goal was to break 2 minutes. Right. And I'm right at the time when I want to do that. It's like 2.5 minutes. I couldn't do it. I'm just gasping for air. But eventually, senior year of high school did that. And then in college, the goal was to break 150, I mean, in 50 seconds, and then breaking it down. Okay, here's what I need to hit, every 200 meters to actually hit the target. I didn't hit it at the end of the collegiate career. I think it was 153 and change. And I look back, I'm like, yeah, I'm very happy with that. Trying to hit 150, my body wouldn't do it no matter how many miles per week and intense the training was doing. But taking a step back, and you can do the exact same thing with football, wrestling, or anything to say, okay, what steps did I need to take to hit this goal? Did I do it? No, but how much closer did I get to kind of get at that higher elite level, call it?
Yeah, definitely. No, I
Mhm.
totally agree. Like
Yeah.
it applies to almost everything and anything that we do. Is you set the goal so high that it's like at first it may seem near impossible, but
Yep.
because it's so high, even if you got 50% of the way there,
Yeah.
you avoid disappointing yourself. You
Mhm.
avoid unsatisfactory results. You avoid worry,
Yep.
stress, you know. And so when I set out that goal to go from 2,000 to 20,000, it took only about 6 to 9 months to do,
Yeah.
right? I did my first 10K month in January of
Nice
2019.
work. Hmm.
And then by, I think it was April or May, I did 35,000 in revenue. And I was like, okay, I've already hit the 10X goal. Let me hit the next 10X, which is to
Another
go from,
zero.
right,
Yeah.
to 20,000 to 200,000. What's the worst thing that can happen? I go back to 20. I still wouldn't be mad.
Yeah.
Right? If you 10X once in your life financially and kept the same lifestyle that you're living right now,
You're there.
or
Yeah.
I mean, you just do that for consistently for 5 to 7 years, you could create a life that you could live off of for the rest of your life. And then anything you do beyond that is just icing on the cake.
Yeah.
So now, April 2019, I do a 30, May or April 2019, I do 35K in revenue. I mean, 95% of that was profit.
Yeah.
I was like, I didn't even need that. I was doing 10,
Yep.
12, 15K months. I did a 20K month prior from January to like April, May.
Yeah.
And then for the
Love it.
rest of the year, I was, doing what millionaires do is they build their other streams of income. So my stream of income with you and IBC Global, that generated about 70 plus thousand in revenue from 2019
Mm-hmm.
to the end of,
Yep.
from the beginning of 2019 to the end. That was one whole year. I'm like, wow,
Mm-hmm.
that was 75 grand of really no work.
Right.
When you think about it, no physical work. I didn't have to run like track. I didn't have to wrestle somebody for that. I didn't have to, beat anybody up. I just
Mm-hmm.
shared my story, expressed my gratitude and thanks. I gave acknowledgement to my Lord and Savior. I acknowledged him day and night and thanked him for everything. And then also thanked people as well that God put in my life to help me accelerate.
Yeah.
And then so now going into 2020, I finished out the first year at 283,000 in revenue. So
Nice
I
work.
hit that 10x goal,
Yep.
the second one, which was to really make 200,000. But in reality, the goal is to go from 20,000 a month to 200,000 a month. So you actually make 2.4 million,
Right on.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And I still have that goal. It's not like I don't want to hit it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to figure out, how eventually to get there. If it took me 20 years to get to 2.4 million, right, I would still do it. I mean, I'm living off of 40,000 a year,
Right.
50,000 a year. I mean, everything else is just icing, right?
Gravy.
So if it takes me 3 years to get to 2.4 million, I'm not going to be angry. But the
Yeah.
fact that I set the goal,
Yeah.
so that I'm always striving to the better
Yeah.
version of me. I'm always trying to beat my yesterday self, become a better Denzel tomorrow,
Mm-hmm.
and then become a better Denzel the next day and following.
Going for it.
So 2020, right? COVID hits and I still break $250,000 in revenue, right? Because I knew, I was like, okay, here's danger, here's opportunity. The opportunity that I saw in my industry was that financial education just became urgent. It has been important for everyone to know about their finances, but now the whole world, it just became urgent to understand your finances. And so I was positioned just in time, philosophically and logically positioned. Had that whole year of basically pregame and learning and do, 283,000 in revenue. And then now we're halfway into 2020. I'm already at $250,000 in revenue. So I should close out the year maybe 400, maybe a half a mil.
Correct.
If it took me 6 months to make 250,000, who's to stop me from making another 250 over the next 6 months? Go win.
Yeah, man. Double it again.
Why not?
Yeah. I tell you what, yeah, no, it is something, and especially on that point in this, because I know you're focused on businesses, velocity banking, and then we go into cash value insurance. But what you had mentioned, it's kind of a good lead in, which we'll definitely go into next time. Today was more so, I was talking about business, philosophy, all that fun stuff, which I love, and I can go on forever. With COVID, the economic panic, the market panic with how volatile it is right now, I tell you what, I mean, with cash value insurance and velocity banking, I mean, there's more interest there and you can do a lot of good with it. It's just more so, I think the transparency more than anything is important because there's a lot of information out there, and whether it's vague or not, just being direct with it. Hey, here's how the product works. And then here's exactly how it can benefit you in your specific situation. You do a ton of case studies, which I appreciate, and anyone would appreciate, because a case study is so nice because you're seeing here's what an individual went through and how you help them. So now I can get something out of that. You can get something out of that. There's a benefit there. So it's really nice in that respect that you put so many case studies there. But with COVID, I think that just accelerated everything. The need for financial education, people wanting to understand, hey, what is velocity banking? How do I get out of debt that normally would take me 30 years? Now I can do it in 5 to 7 years, whatever the time frame is. And then why on earth do I see one cash value life insurance policy with any company that looks horrible in the beginning or at 50 or 60% of cash value versus one that is cash rich from the get-go, strongest guaranteed cash values long-term, all the technical details that you and I like to talk about. But we'll
Yeah,
definitely talk
definitely.
about that, yeah, next time
Yeah,
in detail.
I would just say that, you know, over the sheer amount of information that you and I put out there, the difference between our information and other individuals is at the end of the day, it's going to be wisdom versus information.
Yeah.
So people that are on the hunt for research
Mm-hmm.
and knowledge, there is a overload of information. I call it iOS, information overload syndrome,
Yeah.
right? It's just like it's too much. So the whole economy, the global economy that we're now in the 21st century, it's a global economy that there's just too much information but not enough wisdom.
Yeah.
And the difference between information and wisdom is applied action,
Mhm.
whereas information is just data,
Yep.
it's just facts, but wisdom is a story, it's the facts, and it's the applied action that an individual that is watching can tangibly take home and go do something with it. And I think that's what we bring to the table
Yeah.
when we're talking about velocity banking and infinite banking.
100%. And then also just call it the directness and transparency. I mean, in our company's mission statement, it's convenience and transparency because I'm big on making things convenient as possible, which is why we keep hiring more departments and training them. But, the transparency, whether velocity banking, there's a lot of steps. Like I've seen a lot of your case studies, but a thing I've seen with you, and it's why I like working with you, is you're very thorough about going through each bullet point and not skipping over anything and just assuming the individual knows, or just talking about it conceptually and leaving it there, leaving it on the individual to do the rest. I do my own research, and everyone's going to as well. But the more here's exactly what it is, how it works, pros and cons, specific details, so people can get that information whether they work with you or not, it's there, is extremely valuable. Where a lot of times, and this is probably just how I started in the financial services industry, there's just so much concept sold out there where, hey, look at this great concept. And then people buy a product, find out after the fact that, oh man, I didn't know I could set it up so much differently. And I just wasted 40 grand over the first year or $300,000 over the first 5 years because so-and-so didn't tell me. So in my mind, it's like, okay, how you overcome that is just by really being upfront and showing them all the details. Here's exactly how the product works, which goes back to Apple and Amazon. Like they don't have to sell it because they show exactly what it is on the surface. It's like, it's that simple. That's all you got to do. And then
Yeah,
everyone's happy.
I love sharing with people about infinite banking, the cons, the disadvantages,
Yeah.
and the pros, and you making that decision. Is this right for me or not?
Yeah.
I love mentioning, hey, the policy is going to be negative the first 2 years. The most expensive years are the first 1 to 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
You're probably not going to break even from years until you're in year 5 or 6 or 7,
Yeah.
being the latest,
Correct.
but 3 to 5 years, ideally, we want to break even.
Yep.
And we want people to understand that, like why would I even do that if I'm going to go negative for the first 3 to 5 years and I'm not going to ever, the amount of money I put in over 5 years, you're telling me I'm not going to actually have all of that till the 5th year. And then on top of that, I can only borrow 90% of what's there.
Correct.
How do you make sense of that? Like all those things. And I'm just putting it out there. I'm like, here's what it is. Here's what you need to know. And here's the benefits. And here's how we can make sense of going negative, of having negative cash value, or negative return on investment, or by putting your money into this asset that is going to be, a negative return in the first, year or two. And it's going to be, the insurance company is going to overcharge us for death benefit in those first 2 years.
Yeah.
And just being super transparent about that.
That's it. And you put yourself in a good position, and we can definitely, maybe for the next topic, we'll go into the numbers and details since we love doing that. But I could not agree more. We always try and touch on that. And sometimes I'll hear, hey, it's not about the numbers, just don't worry about the cash value. Don't focus on the IRR, the internal rate of return. You just want to do it because it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. And I hear that. I'm like, no, like this is people's money you're working with here. You cannot just expect them to blindly throw it away, or here's why you sacrifice it. Like if you flip positions and you find out that you lose $100 or $100,000 and it could have been designed differently, whether it's in your best interest or not, it's important for you to be able to see that. Otherwise, you feel like somebody pulled something over you. It's like, no, that ain't right, man. Like, come on, you got to show me the options. But no, it's people's money. They work hard for it. Show them the options and be transparent. There's no call it right or wrong way. We see that a lot as far as you shouldn't do things a certain way. It's like, no, just show me the options. Just like I'm going to buy a car, show me the different features. And if I want if I want the Cadillac version, I'll get that. If I want the basic version, then strip it down. But I want to see it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Just show me the options.
Right on, man. Right on. Well, I thoroughly enjoyed this. We definitely went over time, but that's okay. I enjoy talking to you. Really appreciate you making time today. Anything else you want to touch on that we hadn't before I just ended?
For the audience that,
Yeah.
some people that are brand new, if they want to, see me or go to my channel, it's, Denzel Napoleon Rodriguez, my full name, or if you typed in the Finance Geek or Velocity Banking, those are the concepts that I, really like to cover on my channel, showing people the beginning process. Yeah. If anybody, if they're ready to like jump into this full throttle, I'm sure there's links below in the description.
Correct. I was going to say that. Yep.
Get a hold of Steve and, even get a hold of me. Everybody at IBC Global, for the most part, I think knows me and is able to refer people to my way if they're not ready for infinite banking. And that's where I like to come in and say, okay, if we're not ready for infinite banking, we don't want to force it on our financial situation. We want to improve our finances by making infinite banking a feature and benefit, rather than, oh, I got to do this because I'm 55 years old and I'm going to die soon. I'm like, no, you're not. You've got 30 years left in the tank, at least. Come on.
Yeah.
Like, you just got to fix your health. Maybe we lose some weight and that could improve our cost, and I've guided clients like that. I've said, hey, let's put a policy on your wife. She's 4 years younger.
Yeah.
And she's way healthier and likely to live longer than you, rather than putting a policy on the husband who's older, overweight. Hey, if we could fix the overweight problem, we could have a beautiful policy.
Yeah.
And not have to have higher costs instead of forcing it on the client. I mean, those are practical. That's beyond finances. That now we're talking to like health and fitness.
Correct. Yeah.
Of the client. And I think that's important as agents to bring that up. Hey, are you a smoker? Do you smoke marijuana? Do you do this?
It has to come up.
Yeah, it has to, and that's the vulnerability that you and I get to, and then all the agents at IBC Global get to have that conversation with people and just get real, get really, really real. Hey, I have this issue, that issue. So just close out with that.
Yeah.
Transparency as
right
well.
On. Right on. More than a transaction. Yeah. Now, well, all the links and contact information is below. But yeah, really appreciate you making time today, and we will talk to you next time.
God bless everyone. Thank you.
Thanks. Take care. Hey guys, Steve Parisi here. If you enjoyed the content you just saw, please subscribe, like, and hit the notification bell for future videos. If you'd like more information or to see some custom policies for yourself, feel free to call or email our offices at the contact information below.